Thank you for joining us today on Studio Bo, and today's guest is actor, producer, and attorney, Joy Haynes. Thanks for joining us today, Joy.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
I had a little problem with the joining us, Joy.
I know, that's hard, but
yes.
you got to work on those tongue twisters.
I know. The first question I like to ask people when they come on the show, especially if they're an actor, is if you had to walk up to somebody on the street and they said, hey, what is acting? What would you tell that person?
I think acting is it's like the opportunity to experience another person's life, or like a slice out of that life. It's just sort of when you can kind of transcend into something that's out of your own, it doesn't even necessarily have to be out of your own comfort zone, but it's not of your creation. It's a creative, active, engaging, interactive, vulnerable thing to do.
Well, I like that, the vulnerable, being open, Yeah. So as an actor, when you get a script and you have to prepare for a role, I mean, what's your process? How do you approach that?
Well, that's sort of interesting because most of what I do is commercials and industrials, so it's not like you get a whole lot of meaty dialogue and character and, like a whole script of beginning to end, like of a storyline. But when you do have the opportunity where there's some dialogue or possibly even a monologue, one of the things that I like to do is I actually write out the words myself. It helps me just kind of connect with them, to help me memorize them. And also sometimes I will write a journal entry in that character about what's going on, and then maybe about other things that you might not think are related to this scene, but just to sort of get some background and make that character a more full person, a more well-rounded person. I'll practice reading it in different ways, really, really fast, really slow, different emotions, angry, sad, in different accents. You just kind of never know what might pop out at you in doing it that way that you wouldn't have recognized before. And also I think it helps with your muscle memory of saying the words, so that you aren't relying on necessarily only your brain to remember which words come in what order, but your mouth is so used to saying them in so many different ways.
How long have you been into acting? When did you start?
Well, I guess without giving you the exact number of years, I will tell you that. I went to a private school here in DC and had auditioned for the plays, and I never got in. And we were reading Romeo and Juliet in one of my classes, and in our assignment, we had to actually read the scene aloud in class. And so I did the balcony scene with my friend Nicola, and she played Juliet, and I played Romeo. And it was one of those. It was like that. It was that crossing over experience. It was that epiphany moment. It was that time when I realized that this is what I want to do. This is it. This is it. I found it. And I was so lucky because I don't know, that was probably like 8th grade or something. 9th grade maybe, but I think it was more like 8th grade, because then right after that, I left that school and auditioned went to Duke Ellington, the High School of the Arts, which is public school. So, a long time, and my undergraduate degree is in theater. And not to say that I don't have other interests and have not pursued other things, not in alternative to, but in combination with and in parallel with. So, it's been a long time, and professionally, so I've been pursuing it for many years, and I've been in the union now for 15 years. So it's been a while.
So if you had to talk to a new actor about the importance of training as an actor, what would you tell somebody?
That's kind of hard, because we all hear those stories about, this person got discovered in the grocery store line, never done an acting class in their life, and blah, blah, blah. And then, half the time the real story is that they had been taking tons of classes and they have busted their butt. They've been in Hollywood for years, But, outside of those very few exceptions of the people that, make it without any sort of training at all, I think that you do, if you originally get into it for the right reasons, I think that the training is something you would want to do. And not only because, of course, it's going to help make you a better actor, because you're going to learn, techniques and different skill sets, But you're also going to learn strategies and tactics and how to be a professional. You know, how do you act on set, and you know, what is the pecking order, and what how just basically how to conduct yourself, because they're gonna show up and they're gonna expect you to know how to act because you're an actor, right? So you also need to be a professional when you get there. So there's something to be said for that, and I really think that's where the theater training comes in. You know, like, you know, if our interview today starts at a certain time, say noon, that doesn't mean that I show up at noon because that's start time. You know, so you always show up a little bit early, and things like that, where I think kind of the theater background ingrains stuff like that in you, and also just sort of the work commitment, the work ethic, the time commitment, just to understand the amount of individual and teamwork that goes into putting something together.
I don't think that newer actors kind of understand the amount of work that goes into, say, a play or a film. They kind of just jump into it because they want to become famous quickly. You know, yeah, it's great to be in front of the bright lights and everything, but talk about the work that goes in. I mean, it's a lot.
Well, that's funny, because I say I would love to be in a play, but are you kidding? I do not have enough time to be in a play. I mean, that's a major commitment. I mean, and there's no flexibility with that. You know, the show must go on. You've always got to be there, and it makes it hard to do film and television stuff when you're doing theater work, because you have a call time, you have to be at the theater, and you know, shoots on a TV set can go all day long. But so I mean, they're similar but different. As far as like the theater commitment is such a long-term commitment, and the acting on, you know, film, television, radio, that type of stuff. While it may not be sort of long-term, as in, you know, your work is just one day or maybe 2 days in a row, you still have to be available all the time. You have to be flexible. If you can't make that audition, then somebody else that looks just like you can and will get the job. And so it's not just the time commitment of actually being on the set, but it's like everything that goes into making it to the set, of laying your groundwork, building up your network, making sure the agents and casting directors know you, building a community with the other actors, and creating your own reputation as a good actor, as a responsible person, and as, you know, someone that people want to work with. So so I mean, I just think it's sort of the time commitment. It just happens in a different way in theater and film.